Well, to support the community first and foremost, I think Kevin's story is a really important story. At IMG Academies, we're trying to also create research for concussions. We're trying to improve athletes. So there'd be, to me, it would be negligent for our leaders at the academies not to come down and support this event. So I'm teaching communication at IMG Academies. We got mental conditioning coaches coming down. We do have some of our football players that will be here today. But this is way more than just to support the film festival. This is to support ALS, to support Kevin's story, and you gotta, if you don't have a heart, you know.
Well, let me just tell you, John Frankel, who directed the film,
Yeah.
big-time sports commentator. He's done a lot of sports-related films. One of them, about young people getting into football, staying with football. At IMG, you support the total athlete.
Yeah.
Mind, body, spirit. Why is that important?
Well, that's the thing. If these athletes become professional athletes, that's great, and they're going to need all these skills. But if they don't become professional athletes, they're going to need these skills even more. So our theory is that 98% of our athletes that are training at the academies are going to go into something other than professional sports. So we're trying to hedge our parents' bets. We're trying to give them skills to be good husbands, to be good boyfriends and girlfriends, to be good businessmen and businesswomen, because like I said, 98% of our athletes are going to get college scholarships, and after that they got to join the real world, and then they better have these skills. So we're trying to teach them mental focus, trying to teach communication training, trying to teach nutrition, trying to teach leadership, so they're not just good athletes, but they're also good people.
There's a lot of exciting things that are happening at IMG, which is the world leader in sports and development. What are some of the great things that are happening?
It's growing. It's growing every day, and I appreciate your support. We are, well, just for instance, we had about 4 of our elite athletes in the NFL come down to do a 3-day program called Everything to Prove. There's a ton of pro athletes training. The women's soccer team, our national team, is there right now for 2 weeks. But to me, this exciting thing is we've got 800 junior athletes, and they're training, and they're 24/7. And we've got 8 sports now. I think the biggest thing is they're growing the facilities. We're adding football fields, we're adding soccer fields, and we're trying, which I think is the most important thing, trying to include the community more. I think in the past we could have done a better job. I think IMG Academies now is actually reaching out. Sarasota Film Festival, Manatee County, Bradenton, Sarasota, we need to work together. Because if we don't, we're just not putting our heads together. It doesn't make any sense. And that, to me, is the most exciting thing in 2012, moving forward, to work with the community so we can do these collaborations together.
And one last question
Yeah.
for you, Steve. You're looking for it. It's going to be a very touching film tonight. What do you want to take away from this and take back to IMG?
It's a pretty important question. I want to take my time to think about that. There's more to life than sports. I think that's really important for us to drive home to our kids. A lot of people think at the academies it's all about just being the best athlete. It's not. And there's more to life than sports. And to me, the most important thing to take back, to bring to our students, is to serve others. And for Kevin's story, it's pretty heavy. And people need to not take for granted their ability to move, and their ability to think, and their ability to be healthy. And I think we as an academy also need to take the responsibility to make sure that we are taking care of our athletes to the best of our abilities and doing research so we don't continue to fall into some of the patterns that some of these athletes with concussions and some of these athletes have after their playing days are over. I want them to be able to live a good life. And that's the biggest thing I can take away.
Let's give a crimson tide ball for one of the all-time greats, Kevin.
As the discussion of brain trauma and head injuries, not only in football but other professional sports and even at the collegiate level and high school level, was becoming more prevalent, this sort of fell into my lap. And the ability and the opportunity to tell Kevin's story as he learned more and more about what may have caused his ALS, and as he was beginning to coach his youngest son in football, presented an opportunity I thought was too good to pass up. To watch a guy learn that he's in fact may die because of the head trauma that he incurred playing a game that he loves, and he was completing the circle of life. He learned the game from his dad and he was passing it on to his son. There was never an agenda in doing this film. I didn't have a message that I wanted to get out. I simply wanted to tell the story of Kevin Turner, and in doing so, it touches on all the issues that are so important right now and that are being discussed everywhere.
Let me ask you this. I mean, the story has kind of resonated around with other football players, because there's a lot of football players that have been hit hard and who hit home, and that same kind of condition exists in a lot of other people. So it's a universal story.
There's no question that Kevin Turner's not alone, and that's sad. But perhaps that by taking off the shoulder pads and taking off the helmet and lifting up the face mask and seeing that there's a person under there, Kevin Turner represents not just himself, but a lot of guys who have played this game, and not just guys in the NFL, guys who played at the highest level of collegiate football. And I think that he speaks for a lot of people. And as we begin to peel back the layers, we're going to hear more and more about some of these guys. And we're going to learn that the guys that we cheer for on Sundays are vulnerable.
And tonight is a benefit for the Ross Camp Institute, which is a world-renowned facility for brain injury and brain problems. What does that mean to you to be partnering with them tonight?
I think that I'm really humbled by the fact that the Ross Camp Institute wanted to have us be a part of an evening like this and help raise awareness not only for all the great work that they're doing, but for the problems that exist out there. And it really means a great deal to be involved in something like this, and I think it means a great deal for Kevin. And that's really what pleases me most, that Kevin gets to enjoy this opportunity. Because when we started, I told him, I said, I don't know where this is going. I don't know what the story is. I don't know whether we'll be playing this on a big screen in a theater or whether we'll invite 20 friends over for dinner to watch a movie at the end. So the fact that he gets a chance to come out and really put a face on this and be part of a really well-respected organization and institution like Ross Camp, I think means a great deal.
What do you want people to take away tonight?
This was never meant to be a message film, but I think if this is part of the conversation that's been going on and stirs more conversation, even heated debate, I'm sure, in some circles, and that people interpret and take away their own message, and if they draw a conclusion at the end of the day, that's fine. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll want more information. But if it's part of the discussion and again raises the profile of the problems that exist, that's great.
It would be great for young people to take a look at this too.
I have a friend.
And families.
I have a friend of mine, a very dear friend who I played football with in high school, and he watched the film, and he said every coach, every parent, every kid who plays football should watch this film. That meant a lot.
Great grit and determination, got it.
KT was a game changer, in terms of physical ability.
Kevin Turner can do it all.
Kevin Turner, please.
So we talked to John about this film. What was the most important part of it to you?
Probably the best part of it is making a new friend in John. But we had a great time doing it. I'm glad I hope with this film we get more awareness out there for ALS. It shines a little more light on it, and that's probably the most important thing to me.
John, tell what was the best part about working with Kevin?
The best part about working with Kevin, we ate well.
Yeah.
We ate well.
We did eat well.
the best part about working with Kevin, I would have to say I agree with him, and not to rip off his line, but I say to people that I didn't just make a film, I made a friend. And, you know, you can sort of make I don't know if you've heard the joke about the Jew and the Christian, but no, you know, you got a guy from New York and a guy from Alabama, and you would think they wouldn't have much in common. I think we share a passion for this game, and the fact is, and I told Kevin this very early on, is that, you know, I would love to have been him, and that was at a time my dream, and so I admire him for accomplishing his dream, but I also admire the way that he's dealt with what he's going through. And as I say, and I told Kevin this from the beginning, that I didn't know where this film was going to lead to. At the end of the day, this is not a film about a man who is suffering a fatal disease. It is about a man who is still running, and still running hard, and probably rediscovering his own legacy and figuring out what it is he wants to pass on to his own kids.
Yeah, I tell you what, making this film has, you know, brought up an awful lot of good memories of playing, and most importantly, it really examined the life that I have with my own friends, you know, Craig, and just, you know, after just a weekend with John, you know, I felt as comfortable, and we could sit there and talk about anything, and we did. Luckily, not all of it's on the film.
I'll tell you one thing, and I probably will say this when I introduce the film. The most astonishing thing to me about this, and it's a credit to Kevin for how genuine and honest and open and accessible he is. I called Kevin, it was probably August 20th, 21st of 2010. 9 days later, August 30th, I was in Birmingham, Alabama. We met in the parking lot of a Dairy Queen and whatever the Greek shop. And we shook hands, and not 5 minutes later, he was wearing a microphone and I was filming. He didn't know me from Adam. And I didn't say, hey, this is going to be on HBO or this is going to play in theaters across America. I just said, let's give it a shot. And that was Kevin's attitude. Let's give it a shot and see where it goes. And he was so natural and so comfortable and, again, so honest about so many things in his life that it was a pleasure. It really was.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was actually sad to see it over. Maybe it was American Man Part 2.
Well, Kevin did tell me. He said, you know, I said to him when he saw the film, and he only saw it a couple weeks ago for the first time, and he says, you know, there's one thing I'm unhappy about. And I said, what's that? He goes, there's not enough of me in it.
Have you had a chance to see it with an audience yet?
No, I haven't. I'm really anxious to see, you know, what everybody else thinks, or you know, if there's any reactions during the film and things of that nature. And I'm excited about that.
What do you want people to take away from the end of the film, from the film itself? What do you want them to take away when they walk out?
Not to be, you know, I hope they enjoy it. I hope they learn a little something, and but most of all, I hope you know, they're inspired. You know, find out, you know, what each of us can do with our lives and what impact we want to make, and, you know, try to make that.
So, Pat, you played in the NFL for a number of years. Tell us where you played.
I was originally drafted by the Detroit Lions in the second round of the 1988 draft. I played with them for a year. Then I went to the Rams and played with the Rams, and back when they were in Los Angeles, from was it 89 to 93. Then I went back in 95. That was sandwiched between a year in Houston, and then my final 2 years I played with the Arizona Cardinals.
So you had a chance to come here and see American Man tonight. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. What means a lot? This is the first time I met Kevin, but I saw the trailer to this, and it really hit close to home. Just for the simple fact is, you know, he's a warrior like I was, and you know, right now what he's going through are some of the remnants of you know, football, and just kind of saddened me there.
A lot of players, you know, going through, you know, they hit hard, they get hit hard. And there's a lot of people out there that are going through that. What do you think that the NFL should be doing?
I don't think you should help in the sense of helping protecting players. I think what they're trying to implement now, they're gonna be helping the players. But the problem that I see is that they don't do for players after they're done playing.
Knowing what I know now, I wish I could have made him quit, you know.
Football was who I was.
So, Siobhan Dunn, we're here. You're about to screen American Man. Tell us why you think this is an important film.
All right, look right. It is such a topical issue. Obviously, it's in the press constantly, and the conversation is just every day. More and more statistics come out, more and more stories are in the media, and American Man puts a face on so much of what you hear. It shows you really the toll that football is taking. Many contact sports, not just football, hockey, soccer, so many sports. There's just a toll it takes on the human life, and it's rarely in the conversation, and I think it's time we really start thinking about that, and it's more than just numbers and data, and you know, it's a story of a man and his love of the game, and he still loves it. He'd probably do it all over again today, but he's paying an incredible price, and something just we need to look at.
What do you want people to take away from this tonight when they watch his incredible story? Because you tell the story from a young man's point of view, you know, from a boy, college, the NFL, and you know, what do you want people to take away? Families, with children.
You know, just to take away the breadth and the scope of his life when they're making these decisions, when you're maybe pushing your kid to do a sport, just take into consideration the toll it takes. It's such a dream, it's so alluring, it's so seductive, and there's another side to it, and it's the day-to-day. It's the coming home, not just with aches and pains, but the long-term. Kevin has a whole life ahead of him, and that's what he's addressing now and what he's looking at, and it's often not seen in the short term when the incredible, you know, riches that can be gained from fame and everything seem just so alluring, and we don't think beyond it, you know, our own health, the rest of our lives. So I just hope that people have a conversation when they leave about the game, and maybe the next time they watch, they think about those guys making that massive hit, just what their life's like when the TV's off and when they're home, you know, and for our entertainment.
Tonight you're partnering with the Ross Camp Institute, a world-renowned facility for brain injuries. What does that mean to you to have this kind of partnership?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's exactly what we want and need for the film. Again, hopefully it will launch our film into this huge national, even international conversation that's happening around trauma, head trauma in sports. So to have such an illustrious institution behind it just gives us credibility. It gives us, you know, support, again, contact, so much. You know, it's invaluable. It's great.
May of this year, I was diagnosed with ALS. That's hard to say.
Yeah. Mr. Carson, New York Giant legend, you know, 10 out of your 13 years captain of the New York Giants.
Yeah.
You know, what a great treat to have you here in Sarasota. Is this your first time to support?
It is my first time here. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to support this film, to support John and Kevin Turner with this endeavor.
Throughout your career, you were known for a hard hitter, and you got hit a lot pretty hard too.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
How important is it for the public to know that, you know, this is a dangerous game?
Well, I think it's critically important. I think people truly don't understand the force of play out on the football field, especially on the professional level. It's violent on all levels. Even, you know, Pop Warner, the collisions, the hits and so forth, young kids feel them. You feel it on the high school level. You certainly feel it on the collegiate level, but when you get to the pro level, there are so many ways that players sustain concussions, traumatic brain injury, and it's not necessarily the helmet-to-helmet hits. It could be knee to helmet when a fullback like Kevin is trying to make a block and on a linebacker like me and my knee hit him in the head and he's knocked woozy. That's a part of the game, unfortunately, and I think anyone who chooses to play needs to understand that there is a price that you could possibly pay for chasing glory and playing the game.
You, throughout your whole career, have been really involved with player welfare.
Yeah.
You've looked out for players, your whole career.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been appointed to a couple of committees by the governor of New Jersey, to kind of look into brain-related injuries. How important was that for you to get involved?
Well, I was diagnosed in 1990, 2 years after I left football with post-concussion syndrome. So I certainly knew that there was something going on while I played, but also after I left the football field. And for the most part, it's me sort of talking about my own life and my own experiences. And I know that if I had these issues, there are probably many other players who've had the same issues. And so as a captain, as a player who has played, and certainly as a leader, I want to share what I went through with players who have played the game with me, but also players who are young, who are coming along, and with their parents, with the wives of players who have played, to give them an insight as to what the mindset of a player is, the dangers of playing the game, and certainly the ramifications of some of those hits that they sustain and how those hits are going to affect them down the line.
Well, tonight's film, tells Kevin's story, traces him from a young boy through his collegiate to the NFL. Tell us what you want the public who's gathering, it's going to be a sold-out performance. What would you like the public to know about football and the dangers?
Well, the thing that the strongest thing that I could share with the public is I'm a Hall of Fame player, and I'm in about 13 Halls of Fames, including the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I wrote a book entitled Captain for Life, and not necessarily to plug the book, but I talk about my own experiences and my own life. Given what I know now, had I to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, I would have never played football. I would have never played football. It's it's a fun game, but it's a very dangerous game. I have a grandson who's 2, and I have expressed to my daughter and her husband that my grandson will not play football. Now, what people want to do with their own lives, that's up to them. But I think everyone should be educated as to the dangers of playing the game, what it's really all about. If you go back and you look at the congressional testimony of Roger Goodell before Congress 2 or 3 years ago, and if every parent watched that testimony and how the commissioner was skewered before Congress, and how the NFL from that point on had to put up posters in every locker room indicating that concussions and traumatic brain injury could lead to dementia, Alzheimer's, and ALS, and just warning the players of that danger. I think every parent should be informed, and that's the message that I think is key here. Anyone who's thinking about playing should be informed. Every parent should be informed. Every family member should be informed, because if a player sustains a traumatic brain injury, it's not only going to affect him, it's going to affect his entire family.